Okay, first of all, don't be mad, but the title of this video is clickbait. Or actually, more like satire than clickbait. This video has two purposes. One, to discuss how the idea of quote-unquote beating or toppling D&D is the wrong goal to focus on, and two, to talk about how a steezy role-playing game about radical and arcane shredding of the gnar is just as likely as any of the others to define the future of the hobby. I mean, I know that sounds crazy. Just stick with me for a few minutes and it'll all make sense, I promise.
Here we go!
2025 has been a year of abundance for new tabletop role-playing games. Daggerheart, Drawsteel, Cosmere, the new D&D core books, Shadowdark's continued ascent, and scores of other promising games. Since the OGL crisis in 2023, the industry has seen a shift. The greatest motivator in life is pain, because when things are fine, there's no reason to change. It took great upheaval and hobby-wide communal suffering before we did something, before we demanded change. Here's a very quick story about why this upheaval is important. Back in the early 2000s, the dominant computer processor on the market was Intel's Pentium processor. I know the story seems unrelated, but trust me, stick with it. Anyway, Pentium processors were so popular, they had virtually no competition. Because of this, when they released their new annual models, they had no motivation to innovate. There was no real reason to spend big on R&D money for advancement. They didn't need to take big swings because they already had the market cornered. Well, along came the little processor that could, the AMD, and it quickly kicked the Pentium's butt. It was better in every way. For once, Intel was faced with real competition, and so they had to actually stop iterating lazy processors and design something good, or face losing all their market share. Without competition, progress always develops slower. And now, the TTRPG hobby is segmented, unsure, and looking for something or someone to define the future. And that is skate wizards. Again, I'm just kidding. I'll talk more about the game in a minute, but let's dig into this idea of toppling or dethroning D&D because it's fascinating to me. First of all, how does one define the act of toppling Dungeons & Dragons? Outselling it? For how long? If you look at this metric historically, you see endless disagreement. Myth has it there was a period when Pathfinder outsold 4E, and many people viewed that as a measure of success. But on his AlphaStream blog, Teos Abadia presents evidence that it was just that, a myth based on incomplete data. Pathfinder never actually outsold 4E D&D. But I do have one little quibble with this conclusion. Former Paizo and WotC employee Owen Stevens said, quote, "No one outside Amazon knows how Amazon lists way older sales." But actually, I know exactly how this works because I am an author who sells books on Amazon and it's not really a secret. Here, I'm about to bust this mystery wide open. Sales rank on Amazon is equal to today's sales plus half of yesterday's sales. It compounds this way to prevent erratic spikes from people trying to game the algo. And this means that the sales cycle of any title has a reliable bell curve most of the time. But again, how do you define success? Sales? Number of existing players? Biggest new player growth? Amount of online chatter? Sales is the only point with actual data, but it still can't be trusted. How many Brando Sando superfans are going to buy Cosmere and never play it? How many critters bought Daggerheart just to have it on their shelves? We don't know, and we probably never will. Or is it about getting starter sets into Walmart and Target? That's where you go from the big fish in the little tabletop pond to making an actual societal impact. Can you imagine seeing a Shadowdark box set right next to the new Lego Star Wars whatever? That is the point we go from basement dwellers with a niche hobby to standing proudly in the light clutching our polyhedrals to our chests.
The first bugbear lashes out at Stan with his broadsword, and it hits with a 17.
Okay, I jump up to the bugbear, and I yell, "For Waterdeep!" and I kick it in the bows.
I don't think bugbears have bows. Then how do they make baby bugbears?
And the secret third question of this video is toppling D&D necessary? There are people who hate Hasbro or hate Wizards of the Coast, and they see D&D's hypothetical failure as an act of justice, retribution, and I completely understand why many are so mad at WotC and Hasbro. But undirected anger is a waste of energy. Here's another related story from the TV show Mad Men, and personally I think this is the best clapback of all time. Boss Don Draper gets on an elevator with his underling. The underling hates him. He's seething. The underling says.
I feel bad for you.
Don just shrugs and says,
I don't think about you at all.
And that's not just a vicious third-degree burn, there's an important lesson here. Hasbro and WotC are Don Draper. They don't care about your righteous anger manifested as online shouting. So take all that rage against the machine and point it somewhere it can do some good, somewhere like Skate Wizards. Personally, I know nothing about skateboarding. Growing up, my parents never let me have a board because they were convinced I'd find a way to break my neck, and in their defense, they were probably right. Skate Wizards is a rules-light, silly TTRPG that has been updated in a new booklet called Into the Eye of the Domed City. This is an adventure, and it contains a slightly updated and streamlined version of the original rules. Gotta love a rule set simple enough that you can include the whole of it within an adventure book instead of having to buy $150 worth of books, not even including the adventure, just to play. In Skate Wizards, you have abilities, health and defense, permanent spells, random spells, bootleg spells, and items. Permanent spells are related to your board, like you have the ability to create a sick ramp anywhere you like. Rando spells are the real fun. You roll a d12 4 times to create a spell like Harsh Bubbling Lava Bomb, or Solid Shrinking Flesh Hand. I have no idea what that second result means, but it would be fun to design a use for it. Also, I love the fact that rations in the game are specifically burritos. I was never a skateboarder, but I did have that phase in my 20s where I ate nothing but burritos. In play, Skate Wizards feels like an old school game, heavy focus on investigation and ingenuity instead of superpowers. There's a bigger mystery at play in this domed city, and it's your job to figure it out. But at this point in the video, you're probably feeling a little lost, wondering what Skate Wizards has to do with all that stuff I was talking about at the beginning of the video. Remember all that? Is Skate Wizards going to dethrone D&D? Not likely. Will Drawsteel or DC-20 or Cosmere or Daggerheart? Unlikely. The D&D brand has 50 years of public awareness. Millions of people who've never played D&D have at least heard of it. In the marketing world, a product you're familiar with always wins out against a product you're unfamiliar with. That's how advertising works on everyone, even the people who swear that they're so smart that advertising doesn't work on them. Yes, it works on them too. You've probably heard talking heads say that only WotC can topple D&D, that D&D can only eat itself. When the OGL happened, many angry gamers cackled and said, yes, finally, D&D can now die. But the problem there is 90% of the people who are going to buy Heroes of the Borderlands from the game section at Target have never heard of the OGL debacle, and they never will. They could not care less about third-party gaming licenses. That means zero to the average person. Don't focus on beating D&D, which is really just shades of tribalism anyway. We shouldn't have to wait for permission to shape the hobby the way we want. If we want to make Skate Wizards the dominant game, the one so popular everyone lines up to play it at cons, we can do that. And the ultimate lesson of this video is the ultimate lesson of most of my videos, and that is, like what you like. It doesn't matter if Skate Wizards does or doesn't topple Dungeons & Dragons. You can have the same amount of fun playing Skate Wizards, whether it's TTRPG number 1 or number 1000. You know, this video got a little preachy, and I'm sorry about that. Well, actually, I guess I'm not sorry, because I've been wanting to get some of this stuff off my chest for a while, so consider my chest unburdened, and I hope you took something from it. I'm GM Jim, and whatever gnar you want to shred, bruh, shred it.